Okay, so a hearty welcome, gorgeous ladies. If there are any gents in the house, my apologies, you're more than welcome. This is such a lovely evening to just be sitting here with Sammi Reid, who is a guest for the second time on Conversations, and I'm so happy that you've returned. And the topic that she's going to share with us tonight, I think, is just so relevant to where I think a lot of us are. I mean, I'm certainly nearing the crone age, in my 50s. And it's also, I think, a relevant time in the world, to embrace change. So without further ado, Sammi, welcome to the kitchen.
Thank you, and thank you for having me back. And I do, this is a very special group. I have to tell you, the work that I'm doing tonight is the first time I'm presenting it on a very broad basis, and it's a very personal journey with a lot of help along the way, which we always have when we open to an adventure. And so to me, it's a topic that has... It's fascinated me since I discovered it about 3 years ago. And honestly, I could probably speak to you for the next 6 hours about her. But she's so fascinating, and she can be a bit mind-bending because it is something that I do feel has been very hidden from society in its patriarchal, but also hidden from women. So I am so excited about this, because I also find where we are in the planet at the moment, the crone has to rise. And the crone is, to start to jump right into it, this is a very personal journey and a very hindsight journey, okay? So I wish I had known this much younger in my life and known what the crone was all about, because we have, if you speak to women, we have a very different perception of the crone, okay? The crone, and stay with me, you know me, I always do things a bit quantum. I think you all, if somebody's been to me for readings and that, you'll know we jump around, but we eventually make sense in the end. Is the crone has a real dual personality, and we mostly, if you speak to the woman about the crone, it either stirs up either a positive energy or a very negative energy, okay? And taking the crone right back to basics, and I'm going to go into angels pretty quickly here, because me being connected to angel Michael.
What?
Pardon? If any, you... Good. Yeah. No, if anybody needs me, just go through and if anybody needs me to stop or doesn't make sense or I'll go too fast, just slow me down, okay? But the crone, going right back before we even start anything, she's ruled by the archangel Haniel, okay? Which is, and anybody interested in the crone, and the crone is basically the wise woman, okay? She's ruled by the archangel of the moon. And I think this is where it starts to go wrong in the stories, is Haniel, archangel of the moon, Luna, okay? Lunacy, Luna, okay? The crone has two very strong personality types. She either becomes the hag, the shriveled up gray-haired woman that lives on the edge of society and literally loses her mind, or the crone, the wise sage, okay? So we need to navigate that, first of all, to knowing that there are two very active sides of the crone, and the crone is a process that Mother Nature is very aware of how hard it is, how lunar we can go, because there's definite phases where a woman feels mad, where a woman feels like she needs to break out and be free. And society and the patriarch society, and ladies, team, witches, crones, okay, this is not to attack the masculine, okay, but there is a lot here in the masculine that they've hidden from us, because as the crone comes into her wisdom in her late 50s, early 60s, the crone literally realizes that she is free to live the life she wants to live. And she makes a massive adjustment if she's living, and I'll come back to the ages that make a big difference in the crone and where the awakening happens, is when women reach about their mid-40s into right up until 60, their relationship with the masculine changes emotionally, menopausally, neurologically. And the woman actually in her 60s should be going into her absolute power. And there's a deep fear in the patriarchal, okay, old structure. And what we're seeing in the planet as an astrologer at the moment is a deep fight for that structure to change and for us to go back to our old ways, okay? And the patriarch, when a woman reaches a certain phase in her crone life, she doesn't need the masculine, she wants the masculine, and it's a partnership. And it goes right back to Lilith, Eve, the suppression of the strong, wise, independent woman, but needing that partnership. So the crone energy, I think, on the planet Earth is battling to break through at the moment, is old, ancient wisdom coming through, not ancient ego, okay? So with the crone, the first aspect that we got to understand a bit about her is she's ruled by the moon, okay? And we all know as women how the moon is the word menses, menstruation, how different phases of the moon attract us, how different phases of our lives attract us. Haniel governs the life phases of the moon. And when you start connecting to this, is Haniel, the ruler, the archetypal ruler of Cancerian energy, okay, in astrology, the warm, nurturing mother, okay, even a slight feral moon, you know, your youth, you should be very feral up until about 36, okay? So there is I don't know if you all know Cancerians and that, but Cancerians can be very warm, very nurturing, very maternal, but there's also the cold side of the Cancerian that can be very independent, cold, switched off, and diseased, okay? And ladies, and no disrespect here again to the masculine, but I won't apologize again, is we do see a rise, okay? And to start off, a lot of the personal work was backed up and read and really researched to this book. I have the greatest respect for Dr. Christine Northrup. It's an old book, okay? I'm not going to waste time, but it's written in really. If you're looking for a book to guide you through the phases of your life from about your mid-40s, okay, right up into your 60s, this is a book I think every woman. And funny enough, the man also has crone. He just has it in a lot. He has it at a total flip, and he has it a lot less intense. Okay, but this is a beautiful book. A lot of knowledge, a lot of reference, a lot of medical advice. And even though I think it was written in the 70s or 80s, Chris referencing even it's an amazing book. Okay, and it works very well with women who run with wolves. Okay, and just a little bit on a side note here, a lot of women find that Running with Wolves a very difficult book to read. And it was actually the beginning of my very first journey many years ago. I had a group called The Wolves, and it was called The Wolves because I based it off Clarissa's work. And to me, over the many years, and especially the last 3 years, learning to work with my crone, this is a book I think a woman should have next to her bed. And when she feels the crone coming through, and the crone starts to come through as young as 15, but really anchors at 31, okay, this is a book that pick it up, open it, read the messages, this is not a book you read from A to Z, okay? And it's been a lifesaver to me to use the wisdom of menopause, a lot of medical, she does go into the spiritual, but then to back it with the spiritual, they've been both great companions on this journey, because it is quite a lunacy journey. No matter how you look at the crone, okay, whether you see her as the witch with the saggy tits, okay, and the cataracts, and she's gone mad, or you see her as the beautiful gray-haired woman that knows her strength, okay? That is a personal journey that all of us have to go through. And the first time you normally meet the crone, she's normally the hag, okay? So Haniel's we all know women and girls, it becomes, and I'm still a girl, I'm nearly 50, I still see myself as a girl. We all will see it. Okay, the sad reality is women in their late 50s, early 60s get horrific diseases. Okay, they get cancers of their women's, the breast, the ovaries. I'm giving all the cup first so we can get onto the fun side. Okay, but Haniel is ruled by cancer. And we see a lot of women in the late 50s, early 60s, they get depression, they get massive, very aggressive cancers, or they go lunar. Okay. The crone energy is not something a woman can suppress. And this is what, when I started on this journey, and hindsight is, and it's personal, okay? And hindsight is always a great tool. I got so angry in the beginning because I realized how much is actually put under the umbrella. Any stage from 36 under perimenopause, menopause, and it's just something that women need to accept. Not, you go to a guy and you start having some weird symptoms, and not just in your body, in your physical, neurological brain starts to change, and something feels off, okay? Something feels lunar. And you get told you're perimenopause or you're menopause, and that's how it is, okay? And okay. And then in that process, the crone is birthed, okay? So at this stage, any questions about Haniel, the moon, the two sides of the crone, and your own reaction to the word crone? Because I'm comfortable with it, but some of my very strong spiritual friends were very uncomfortable with it because of the depiction of, to me, the crone is being depicted as the hag, the crazy haired woman that suddenly wakes up at certain phases of her life. And girls, the best thing is the older we get, the more crazy she gets, okay? So if you don't, and I'm going to come into the ages, Nana, and give you some time to think about it, the longer we delay the crone, the more crazy she gets. And if she's not acknowledged by the mid-50s, early 60s, she creates disease. She goes into her cold because she becomes feral and she demands to be seen. And the baseline of Archangel Haniel is self-care. And self-care is about allowing the crone to put herself first. Okay, but there's complications there because nothing in life was easy and nothing was given, nothing was simple. And two things I want to plant with you, if there's any questions. It's also something that Michael constantly, Michael, for anybody who doesn't know me, is my absolute 2IC. I couldn't live without him. I love him. I've known him since I was a little girl, and he is my absolute chummies, okay? Michael has always reminded me that the feminine, okay, the female births a spirit from a realm that we still, no matter how Dolores or me or whatever, we still do not understand that concept. And he said to me, Sammi, he often says to me, remember God, Source, Buddha, Allah, whatever, whatever your God is, whatever your belief is, they chose a female to birth something from pure spirit. Okay. So in this, just at the moment, is any questions about Haniel, the duality of Haniel and the feralness of you can't deny a moon her phases? Any questions? I can keep on going because, as I said, you literally are going to have to shut me up at 9 o'clock, okay?
Les has a question quickly.
Sorry, yes?
Can I ask, sorry, in my ignorance, Haniel, is Haniel an angel, an archangel, a mythological figure, or what is she?
Good question. She's an archangel. She is the primary archangel of all phases of a woman's life. She governs the star sign Cancerian, or Cancer. So she is her and Lady Nada work very together with the feminine and the different phases of the female. But Haniel is also the ruler of the moon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, every archangel, and please believe me, I also won't go down that rabbit hole with the angels. Every archangel has very specific tasks on planet Earth that they govern, and Haniel governs the phases of a woman's life. Okay, so good question. So going into this about 3 years ago, at about 45 years old, I started having what I would put down to physical perimenopausal symptoms: night sweats, brain fog, irritability, a lack of sex drive, and just very physical things. And I went to a gynae, and the gynae sort of blared me off and said to me, yeah, you're 45, you know, perimenopause, menopause. And I left there feeling, okay. And listen, I also own it. I've never wanted children. Okay. It was actually something I've always looked forward to, was that phase of my life where I didn't have to be asked why I chose not to have children and why I chose. It was just, so a couple of months later, I started having weird, what I could only describe as what the fuck moments in my life, where things that I cared about deeply, people, situations, primarily animals, there was this funny energy coming through. And ladies, this is also a good one to identify pretty early. The crone comes through between the base and the sacral. Does everybody know the base chakra and the sacral? So the base and the belly button, okay? Anybody that doesn't, just quickly raise your hand so we can quickly show. The crone comes through between the base and the sacral. So she comes through in a very weird place, and a lot of us can get quite, we confuse it with our base chakra. We can get, our sex drive can go up, it can change. We can suddenly find ourselves wanting security in strange ways, but she's actually totally separate, but she comes in between the two, okay? She's a physical life force. And suddenly I was lying on the floor having panic attacks about, I was really, really asking myself, is this my life? I'm alone, I'm single, and I'm lying on the floor, and suddenly the things I used to deeply care about, I had the energy of, And suddenly I started feeling something deep inside me that felt feral and wild and strong. And she intrigued me, but she also scared the fuck out of me, because I suddenly wanted to put me first, and I'd never experienced this, okay? And it literally took one night, one of my best friends and I, we call it a grade 9 panic attack. I woke up and had a panic attack on my bedroom floor that I knew something was very wrong. And I phoned my homeopath the next day, and we started a bit of a journey. And a couple of weeks later, confirmed perimenopause. And she is one of my closest friends. And she said to me, Sammi, are you okay? And I still blased it off and said to her, you know me, I've been waiting for this moment forever. Okay. You know, if I could have chosen not to have children at 24, I would have been there. Okay. I'd have been the first one lining up. And I went home, and I really was like a little bit cocksure and a little bit and that. And this, you know, anything in spirit, anything when you're ready, is suddenly the crone arrived in my life. And suddenly I just realized that a lot more was happening, that just my physical body was changing. My mind was changing, and I felt a strength that I hadn't felt. And I started to look for answers, because one of the things I think as healers, as women, okay, is we are the storytellers, okay? One of the ways we can help the crone is become storytellers. And, you know, in the old days, we would sit around a fire. We're doing it tonight. And we would sip whiskey, or we would tell our stories, okay, in you know, the Red Tent, the beautiful book about women who have their menstrual cycles. So I started looking for a mentorship. I started looking for, what is this? Okay. And I studied, I came across a Fair Lady article, and then funny enough, woman who ran with wolves fell out my bookcase. And then my homeopath gave this to me for my birthday, the wisdom of menopause. And I started to look, and I'm really also grateful is the Fair Lady article also opened me up to a bit, is the word, and stay with me here. A lot of the crone energy is hidden in the word perimenopause or menopause, okay? And perimenopause, ladies, also is a little bit of jump here. Perimenopause can last for as long as when you basically started your menses, when you started your menstruation cycle, 13, 14, 15, perimenopause can last that long. Mother Earth is beautiful. She is balanced, okay? So a lot of us also don't realize when we start the night sweats, the brain fog, is the neurological change in a woman's brain as early as 36 sometimes, okay? There's neurological and emotional changes and hormonal changes. And it's put under this banner of menopause, and you need to just, I don't know, suffer through it, or it's just an acceptance, okay? But if you now, and please all grab a piece of paper, and I'm quickly going to have a sip of, my whiskey that I've been nursing for about 2 hours. This is a good time to put on a piece of paper for women, the ages 31, 36, 42, 45 to 48, 55 to 60. And then at 60, if anybody's over 60 here, raise your hands, because you can celebrate, okay? You really should be, yeah, good for you. Really awesome is you can put a big plus star sign next to 60, okay? So those are I want you just to think about those ages, okay? Just plant them there for 2 or 3, you know, let psyche start working. But then I also want, if you could put the word, there's 2 things here with menopause, is break the word down to me, no pause. And then on a second, like subline, menopause. Okay, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen that. It's a life hack. Okay, and if you want to go a little bit deeper, and you've got teenage daughters and young daughters, we can do a side one of this, because if you take it right back to menstruation, you start a cycle of men. You start a cycle of menstruation. So, you know, when we look at the wisdom of the words, it just boggles my mind. Okay, and then think about menses connected to the moon, Haniel. It's always been there. Just we just don't connect it anymore. Okay, so in the process, through my homeopath, the books and all that, and that panic floor, literally lying on the floor, questioning everything I thought I knew, who I was, okay? And this was a sturdy 45-year-old. I thought at 45, you got your life waxed. I mean, you fucking know your shit here, okay? And you think you know your shit at 30, and then at 45, they literally take you to your knees, okay? I must say I was gobsmacked, okay? I was absolutely gobsmacked at this beautiful but wild creature that was coming out of I wasn't birthing this was already alive, okay? And she suddenly started to sit down in front of me and say to me, what are you doing to put yourself first? What fills your cup up? And the big thing that happens here, okay, especially around when she anchors, for the first time she anchors strongly, is at 45, and she doesn't leave us, okay? Women realize at these big ages that suddenly they have never had a pause. Women, unfortunately, okay, and team, I'm not going, and please believe me, no disrespect to sexuality here, pronouns and all that. I'm still an old-fashioned girl. It's not about that. It's hormonal sometimes and braining, okay? But females, whether go on duty, the feminine energy goes on duty a lot younger than the masculine, okay? You can all remember, and if there's somebody here where you would have to serve granny tea while your brother was running around sort of being able to kick the soccer ball, okay, after lunch, okay, you are expected. It's conditioning. It's a deep conditioning. So women go on duty, and in some cultures, you know, in your Middle Eastern and that, women go on duty at 4 or 5 years old. You know, they married off at 9, 12, 13 years old, okay? So women in these primary years, okay, and I'm going to jump here a little bit, but these big primary years where the crone says, feed me, break free, the woman often can't. And the first time she can actually break free is around 45 to 48, which is incredibly sad to me, okay, because she's powerful in 3 different years before that, where if we were allowed ourselves to be more feral, more lunar, more free in our feminine, knowing that we are giving way to our own madness just for little periods, that when we get to our mid-40s, okay, and team, this is where Shirley Valentine comes in a bit, okay? Who hasn't watched Shirley Valentine, okay? Shirley Valentine is an archetypal movie for this, okay? She gets home one day, she must be in her late 40s, early 50s. She looks at her family's chaos and she says, fuck this shit, and she goes to Greece, okay, and has a hot affair with a very inappropriate man and comes back totally different, okay? That is part of Haniel if she doesn't get fed, okay? Because Haniel, not Haniel, sorry, the crone, and I interlink them. The crone is a warrior woman that says it is now time to respect the me. Okay, and so as we hit, because what happens from mid 40s, 42 to 48, big hormonal changes start to happen. And is anybody here under 42? I think Cindy, and I'm not calling you out, but if anybody's under, these can be quite difficult things to hear. Okay. But what starts to happen from 42 is Mother Earth starts to drop estrogen. Okay. So what happens is when we hit 42 in this menopause crone thing, it's probably the biggest team. If you can go back, 42 for a woman is probably the most painful reawakening. Because she's at, and if you're older than that, go back to it. If you're not there yet, know that you're still coming to the great times, okay? 42 is that period where most of us are having or had our children, okay? We realizing is that there's this break, but we can't totally break free. And it really is a year that we often question a lot about who we are. But it's the 36 and 42 of the crone is very difficult, because I feel that those 2 years where she comes in, I'm going to explain the difference, she can't break free, okay? Because most of us, even if you choose not to have children, 36 to 42 as a woman, you are serving, okay? A woman's role is to serve, okay? It is to give, it is to nurture the planet. So a lot of women, if you go back to think about yourselves, 36, 42, is you have this deep desire to make big changes in your life, and often we can't, okay? And remember, Haniel being the archangel of the mother, the Cancerian, she will self-sacrifice for the child, okay? For anything that is needy of her, okay? But the crone demands respect. So what happens, okay, and sorry for the jump here, but stay with me, I'll come back. At your ages 31, okay, is the first time the crone makes a big entry. Now, working a lot with my astrology, I think a lot of women can't see this, okay, because it's hidden in their Saturn return as well. Is they are naturally wanting to break free and they want to break out, but they often are being pulled back into responsibility, okay? And 31 is really 31 and 36 is the last 2 years that we can be lunar, we can be wild, we can be the youth and the maiden, okay? So often what I feel is we don't even see the crone come in at 31. But if I look back at my 31st, okay, there were some big life changes, but I didn't see it because everything else was changing. Saturn return, okay, restrictions, karma, a bit of a fuck up, okay? Then what happens, and team, she only, because she's so strong, okay? Do you all, and this is a crazy one, this is a good one to look for strong female mentors. There's very few out there, okay? And some of them are crumbling, but you will see some women in their absolute powers the older they get. What's the dame? She's an actress. She's got grey hair.
Judi Dench.
Judi Dench one, okay. Yeah. They come more. Your crone, actually, Mother Earth is so kind. She is kind. She doesn't dump the crone in our lap at about 55 because we'd all go mad, okay? We would all go crazy. She brings the crone in gently, a year by a time, so that when we get to about 45, 48, and she anchors for 3 solid years, we don't totally go loopy, okay? So a lot of females can't see that crone energy at 31 because of Saturn return. Then it hits at 36, okay? Now, if you've missed it at 31, she's going to every time she can't be explored and fed, she goes back to sleep, she zips herself up. And that's why if you often go back and you look, believe it or not, I made my big career change from car rental, okay? I used to be a car rental agent, swear to God. Okay, I made my big career move into this around 30, 31, and then again, another one at 36, okay? So what happens is the crone gets it and she goes back to sleep. And often we wake up around just after our 32nd birthday and we think, what was that? Bit of midlife crisis, at Saturn return, settle back in, okay? And she waddles back in and she goes to sleep. She comes back at 36. But now she's a little bit more hungry because she didn't get her meat, she didn't get breakfast. So now she wants lunch, okay? And interesting enough, 36 is where Haniel is her strongest. So 36 is the primal estrogen peak till 42, women wanting to be nurturers, wanting to be mothers, okay? So 36, the wild feral crone that wants to be a bit of Shirley Valentine, she has to be suppressed again, okay? Because it's society. It's what moms do, okay? And a wise person, I can't remember exactly who the quote is, mother, okay, has always obligations. Even if you don't always birth it, you have obligations. Women have different obligations. Me, no pause, okay? So what happens here, ladies, is that 31, 36 crone often doesn't get fed, okay? And if you can feed her and often, if she can be fed at those ages, she's often considered feral already by society, okay? Living her life a little bit, the wild woman, the witch in the forest who doesn't quite conform. Because if you haven't had your children by 36, 42, there's something wrong with you, okay? Or you haven't conformed or got your white picket fence. So a lot of women, and remember, team here again, because Haniel is so fulfilled right up until 36, 42 by nurturing, she doesn't often see it. She doesn't often miss it. But there is an inkling of a wildling there. I want to break free and I can't break free. And coming from an astrologer, nothing happens overnight. So anything big happens over 3 months. So if you think about it, is if the crone only comes in at 31, 36 for a year, she's only got about 3 to 6 months to really make herself feel alive, because 3 months she's birthing and 3 months she's dying. So we often just put it down to midlife crisis, Saturn return, 36, midlife crisis, okay? And astrologically, 36 is where we have our life review and midlife crisis. So it gets hidden again. And then, okay, and I don't know if anybody's 42 here, but I hope you all are a bit older than 42. And for those not yet 42, good luck. Okay. 42 is often the big one where the crone is now, she's fucking hungry, okay? You haven't fed her breakfast, you haven't fed her lunch. Now she demands a little bit of tapas. And you know, we can also do a part 2 of this, because this is a lot of hindsight. The first word I've made in my notes last night, this is a hindsight journey, okay, is 42. I remember thinking, is this my life? Okay, is this it? Okay. And I really, the greatest fear hit me there is, it was just an incredible thing of going right back to my core, but something also started to turn, and I started to get braver to face some of my darkest fears, okay? Because remember, bringing the moon back here, we never see the dark side of the moon. You know, we've sent satellites up there and we won't get onto the moon and what I think the moon is on this chat. Okay, this is not a deep dive into the Illuminati, but we never see the backside of the moon. So we are terrified of the backside of the moon, and society portrays her as the hag. Okay. And I remember lying on my grass, okay, about 7, 8 years ago. I had just adopted Astro, and I remember thinking, is this my life? Because it wasn't the life I thought I was going to be at 42. And this brave crone was there, but I didn't see her. So what can happen here at 36 or 42? The crone can go a bit crazy. And we can get very messy, okay? And we confuse our wisdom with we literally can become one or two of the woman, okay? And what I figured out is, if we can't feed her 31 and 36, we become messy in our 40s. That 42 can be quite a very difficult facing your own shadows, facing your own moon, facing your own victim, your own ego, your own wounding, okay? And at the same time around there, okay, a lot of women are actually moms, okay? And what happens around 42 is the first time we see a huge hormonal imbalance, and estrogen starts to drop. And as a Reiki practitioner, estrogen is the hormone of giving a fuck, okay? So what happens from 42, Mother Earth knows you're starting to turn to 60. And I know it sounds crazy, team, but 42 is the last bit of your youth, okay? It's the last bit of your feral wild woman, okay? And there is also a peak here for women to take on rescues, okay, nurturing, have children. You see a lot of women suddenly around 42, 43, suddenly wanting children, suddenly really, and if they haven't had children, there's a huge drive here to have children, okay? And it is where Mother Earth says we really need to have our children by 42, 43. Controversial, totally, I put my hand up, okay? Because what happens at 45 to 48 is the next big neurological hormonal change in a woman's life. And whether you go into menopause or that early, it's a little bit like clockwork. Estrogen really drops. So what happens is almost overnight, around mid-40s, okay, 45 to 48, anything around that, a woman suddenly goes into real strong, more than perimenopause, menopausal energy, her estrogen drops, and suddenly at 45 to 48, she wants to put herself first. Okay. And not the danger, the excitement with this part is the crone doesn't leave us until about 48. So suddenly, and I don't know if you can all remember, and this would be an awesome time for questions and that, suddenly from about mid-40s, mid-45, a woman is suddenly, she is forced, because the crone doesn't leave us, okay? She's forced to suddenly start putting boundaries on and to start to relate to her, I want to break free. And you know, what happened there for me in that period is I really started to confront my weight issues. I started to confront while using food as an thing, and lost almost 70 Ks through the process, okay? Because I finally, through the fear, I realized I had a very powerful energy. And I'd love to have feedback here is, I could feel her. She was alive and anchored. And I suddenly started saying, this is not okay. I don't like that. I don't feel like doing this. And the big breakthrough was one Sunday afternoon, I got called out for an animal rescue. And anybody that knows me deeply knows that my passion, my life force is animals. And there was nothing in me. I did not ignore the rescue call. I put systems into place to make sure the animal was healed. It was the first time in my life that I didn't want to go. And it scared the fuck out of me, because it was everything that I was wired suddenly didn't feel right. And suddenly the things that I needed in the system, I didn't want in the system, okay? And I then started to trust this crone. And the crone, the baseline, I can say to you, she's wild and beautiful, but she just says enough. And suddenly I started finding my voice. And it wasn't in big things, girls and team. It was actually in self-care. It was actually putting routine into place. It was actually allowing myself time to garden again. It was time to allow myself to go back to my witch, allowed myself to say, I'm not strong. I'm not superwoman. I don't want to be superwoman anymore. I want to garden on a Sunday afternoon with my beer. And what I've discovered through that, and I'm looking forward to her, because what it is, and I'm 40, I've turned 48, so she's left me again, so I'm a bit softer, not so angry, okay? But what happens in that is the crone doesn't matter, and I didn't know her at 31 or 36, but I can see her, I can see what she was trying to tell me, and I honor her that I was brave enough to leave my corporate job at 31, and then at 36 to really up. I lost a partner at 36. He was killed in a car crash. Is really up my game into my crone, into my witch, okay? And team, the witch for me, I am an archetype of witch. I'm so happy some things are simple. The witch is the wise woman. And my heart mourns mostly for a lot of women that can't express it. Because I'm lucky. I was very lucky. I didn't have the restrictions, but even me not having the restrictions of a husband or children, I still wasn't able to break through to my mid-40s. And most women can't break through until they reach 55. Okay, which is so scary and so sad, because the crone, just to give you something to look forward to, she comes back at 55, and 55 to 60, she stays with you, and she doesn't really leave from 55, but she takes a gap. Women from mid-50s into 60s create empires. This is who I am. And if you don't like it, because she's come into that system, is I don't need anything anymore. It's me. It's all about me. And these big years, if there's somebody 31, 36, 42, these are big years to put yourself first, to break free as far as you can, without abandoning your family, your responsibilities, and being Shirley Valentine, because that's not part of the deal. The part of the deal of the crone is to nurture. But this is the year where if you want to start something, change your job, get it, I don't know, follow a passion. She gives you 31, 36, and 42 to try and find those passions. But if you don't, she comes in at 45 and says, you have to do this, okay? And often what happens, it feels so feral, so terrified, we can go mad, okay? And team also, I don't want to say guys, but in the crone energy, but in this is the years 31, 36, 42, 45 to 48, and 55 to 60 are actually rest years for the woman. They're years where, I'm not saying you lie back and you get your toes manicured, and if that's what rest is to you, great for you, okay? Rest is me. I need to paint. I need to grow. I need to explore my sexuality. I need to do the Camino. I need to do things differently, okay? It's not about total freedom. Total freedom comes only at 60, okay? And team here, I'm going to merge a bit of the masculine crone here. I am delving a little bit into astrology here. 60 is a point where source, Buddha, source code, whatever you call, to be part of planet Earth, source demands, okay, that we serve, we give to planet Earth 60 years of service, okay? So when they talk about retirement and the crone coming in at 60, and the masculine also has the crone at 60, but I'm not going to spend time on the crone masculine. Just know the crone masculine is flipped, where women want to break free at 31, 36, 42, 45, 48. Men want to come home. Men want to come home for those years, and they want to be nurtured, because men, believe it or not, go out into the world a lot more, where we have to go on duty, and more masculine goes out in the world. So how many women do you know in their mid-40s, like late 40s, like 46, 47, their husbands suddenly say, oh, we want to retire, or we want to stay home and come to Stark Airs with you. And the woman is like, are you fucking kidding me? I've just raised children and taken your mother with me to Stark Airs. I'm actually going to UCT campus to do naked photography, okay? So, you know, that's the crone. So the masculine has it. He just has where the crone wants freedom in these years, the masculine wants confinement. And it can be very, very difficult navigating those partnership ages, because the energies need very different things, okay? But what happens is these years are supposed to be regrouping, going back, lying on your bed, self-caring, giving yourself time to go on retreats with the girls, nurture, flower, do the baking courses, okay? Because through that, her passions are, she's fulfilled, okay? If the crone does not get fed, she takes life force. Okay, because she demands crone, and team also, again, and if I'm missing anybody thing, the crone is a red energy, okay? She's life force, she's menses, she's menstrual blood, she's plus giving birth to, you know, to women lucky enough and privileged enough to give birth, you know, the purple sac. So Haniel and the crone, if they don't get life force, red passion, life force, they do devour, okay? And the flipped hag, okay, the flipped crone can be very predatorial, okay? Can displace the base chakra, or the body gets angry and eats us up from inside, from the base up, Okay, so the crone, that was one of the scary things, and it's the slight dark side of the crone. The dark side of the moon is she demands it. And the thing I learned about 2 years ago in this is, I'm going to be honest, is I hate conflict. Okay, I'm a Libran and fucking try to run away from it, but I suddenly realized the crone was stronger than me, and I could hide behind her a bit, because suddenly I just like, boom, this is not okay, and I allowed her air. And giving her air, she actually calmed down quite quickly. Okay, but so the nice thing is here is women are meant to slow down here, but it's not a slow down, a stop. It's a pause. Men oh pause, me oh pause, to regroup, rethink, break free, be feral. And then when we flip out of it, we take those ideas and we plant new seeds and we create new empires. Okay, any questions at this stage? I'm gonna also split out some words for the crone to give you the crone hag, and the crone hag energy, okay, merges with the word witch. And I don't know if anybody has an adversity to that word, but that's the merging of the real true crone is the gray-haired woman who is living on the edge of society, but she's not mad. She's totally within her power. She knows how to howl at the moon, but she also knows how to go to Pick and Pay and buy bread and milk. Okay, we need to connect to our alchemist and to our witch, our sage, wise owl, not the crazy woman. Okay. Any questions here? I'm going to take a sip. But any questions? Have I lost anybody? Does anything not make sense? And anything rub anybody up the wrong way?
I think everyone seems quite happy. I'm looking at their faces and everybody's quite intrigued and interested. Ellen has just raised a hand. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi, thanks for that interesting insights you're sharing. I'm just a bit worried because now I'm 48. I'm just scared I'm gonna get bored for 7 years now.
Oddly.
So your name was, just please remind me, and I just try to stay on top of it, but I also have to own my brain. So your name, sorry.
Ellen.
Ellen.
Ellen. Ellen, it's an interesting question. Is restless would be more the if she's been fed, okay, and my thing, if she has to be fed around 42, and if she's been fed in that sort of, that you've put yourself a bit first, you've re-looked at your priorities, you look at your passions, you follow them a bit, okay. I don't believe, also I'm going to go back to my little rabbit hole of 60, Michael's reminded me and I just put it in. I don't believe as women, we are totally free until mid-50s, okay? And I actually, as much as I used to fight that, and I'm quite a rebel, and recently only I really came to a big realization around the masculine with myself, is if the crone hasn't been fed 45 to 48, she'll create more destruction, okay? But you are the crone, even me, I turned 48 in September, and so I'm going to be 49 in September. I can feel the restlessness. I can feel she's not there, okay? But the nice thing is from 45, she doesn't really leave. The key is here to feed that restlessness, feed the passion, because she is and the way that I see it, she literally opens you up from between your pubic bone, okay, and your belly button, and she claws her way out, okay. She doesn't need a lot. She just needs a little bit of passion. And the most important thing I can say here to you is, if you're worried about that, then you must give your witch, your storyteller, your wise sage space. And two of the spaces I give my crone every day is, people laugh at me and tease me, is my cup of coffee. Okay, it's my little witchy tradition that fills my cup up. I can't begin to tell you how it fills a need in me, a life force in me. And then I love having fresh flowers on my desk, because when I look at that, it's a deep sense of, it's not a deserve, it's I work hard enough to respect, to have life force with me. So I hear you, and it is a challenge because you don't want her to go back to sleep. So, and if she's alive and it's anchored, and I would think anybody here on the podcast, okay, would be very aware of this, or it might be on deeper levels, but not sensing it. Give that restlessness, that boredom, you've got to feed it, okay? As mad as it might seem, you got to, it's because she is independent, okay? Remember she's independent in her own way because she's not held to society. So does that help answer the question? You got to feed her. And the nice one is, okay, a better way, Michael's got a better answer for me. Often at 45 to 48, the crone will give us a new life path, a new idea. And it can be quite life-changing, and it can be quite out of the box and quite mad. It's often a very good year from 48 to your mid-50s to plant, to grow that, to plant it, to solidify it. So that when she comes back at 55, you've almost like, if she said to you, to me, it was, you got to do your non-profit on that. So when she comes back in about 10 years time, I can say, look what I've done. Okay, does that help?
Yes,
okay.
very much. Thank you.
Okay, so team, if you want to break her down, okay, the crone in her power is, these are just words. You can put them down, resonate, don't resonate, use, don't use, it's absolutely fine. She's powerful, she's life force, she's self-expressionative, she's me, she's about pausing, she's about courage. I do put Shirley Valentine down here because the crone must have an element of freedom, and she must have an element of her girls and her tribe, and she must be able to be totally free. Okay, so whatever Shirley Valentine closes to you, you must embrace. You must find your Shirley Valentine moments in your day. My cup of coffee is my Shirley Valentine, where I literally say, fuck the universe, okay? So that's her in her power. It's an interesting word. She will use feral, okay? And I've put feral between the two because feral is good to a certain, feral means you can survive, but feral also means you can attack. And the worst, the crone, the broken crone is the attacking crone, the angry crone, the negative crone, because she has wisdom and she can really, really bite, okay? And she can create huge instability. If you think the moon goes out, think about how often we are affected by eclipses, new moon, different phases, okay? The moon, team, the crappy thing is, I'm going to go a bit into the shadow here. The shadow aspect of the crone is the woman who kills, okay, is the woman who goes mad, is the woman serial killer, is the woman child murderer, is the woman child sex trafficker, okay? It falls under the mommy dearest complex, and it's the cruel mother, it's the cold mother. 2024, we still are not comfortable with talking about it because it goes against the absolute nature of a female to nurture. And the unfortunate thing is here, okay, I don't know if anybody's Game of Thrones enthusiasts, okay, but your ultimate crone, I even have a t-shirt that says Mother of Crones, is Khaleesi, okay, in Games of Thrones. Her journey from the young maiden who's sold into slavery and sex prostitution through her, and please believe me, it's an archetype I work with in Dream State. I can't get through much more than the 6th episode of Games of Thrones because I just can't follow the story, okay? But Khaleesi is the ultimate crone. And she's not an old lady when she rules the kingdoms, okay? But she's a beautiful archetype of going through the crone energy, breaking free, doing it her own way. Okay, so if you want to have a maiden or a mentor out there, this is not a bad one. Okay, and take a lot of t-shirts that actually sell let's say Mother of Dragons. Okay, so with feral, I use that word with the crone very, very cautiously because feral can be too wild. okay? And too wild here displaces the crone, okay? So the crone in her hag, okay, and most of us, and you can show a show of hands, most of us know, if I say the hag, the gray-haired, saggy-tit woman who's got cataracts and has boobs by her knees, okay, that's how we're depicted as we get older. You're going mad, you're going crazy, there's something wrong with you. Why do you need to do that? Why do you want a tattoo? Why do you suddenly want to study in your mid-40s? Why do you want to go and study psychology? Okay, be a granny, bake cakes, okay? So you know, the crone, it can really flip. So the crone in her cold phase is panicked, she's fearful, she's unyielding, she's fighting, she's feral. I have put feral there, okay? She's lunar, okay? And the word is cold, okay? And so, where we all are in age, I'm sure you can all reflect out, is you will know some women, and especially the older they get, where you can see it. They either get sick or they go mad, okay? And it's why are women more prone to Alzheimer's and dementia? Why do women get huge UTIs late 50s? Why do women battle more with depression? Why do women have a lot more cancers, okay? And when the cancer hits, it hits the big ones. It hits your ovaries and your womb and all that. Because she says, give me life force or I'll eat you up. Okay, any questions? Do the words make anybody, any, because I'm going to jump to this. So now what I want to jump to is the beautiful thing is the big thing here, okay? Ladies, if you are with partners, okay, 31, 36, 42, 45 to 48, 55 to 60, these big years, you don't naturally like the masculine, okay? Because in your big years, and I think also, again, I take my hat off to women who are married, 36, 42, 45 to 48, your hormones change. Your hormones start to tell you, menopause, you don't want the masculine around you, okay? You'll suddenly start yourself fighting the masculine at you. A lot of women come to see me to think something's wrong with them. They don't suddenly like their teenage son's smells, okay? They stink. They don't want their husbands near them. They suddenly get separate beds because what is this, okay? It's very normal, okay? Especially in those big years. Your big thing in those years, your neurological brain, okay? Do you know the periods between about 42 to about 50? A woman's brain actually refunctions, repurposes, okay? There's a part of your brain, and I can't remember what it is now, that around 45 starts to burn, okay? Short-term memory. Because Mother Earth realizes you don't need to remember where the kids are or who needs that. So often we think we go through menopause and we think, fuck, it's just brain fog. Okay, no. There is a part of your brain that literally catches a light and burns. Okay. And everybody says, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You're not going mad. There's a part of your brain that is going mad. Okay. So realize the big thing to me through Christine Northrup was that is menopause and perimenopause. Okay. And team also perimenopause can really, it literally lasts until you considered menopause when you haven't menstruated for 6 months. Okay. 6 months to a year. And generally, perimenopause can last as long as it took you to start your menses. So if you started perimenopause, and these days, I hate to say it, we are seeing perimenopausal symptoms as early as 36, okay? So it's not a 2 or 3 year journey. It can sometimes be a 10, 12, 13-year journey, okay? So also one of the big things I say, you get help. Because the brain refunctions and huge things happen here in hormones. And I'm not, whatever works for you, but it is not something that women need to suffer through because your brain absolutely burns. And it's a menopause, and its purity is a neurological change in the woman's brain. Her senses change, her vision changes. And often at those big years, she often wants to change the masculine. She often looks at the masculine in her life and says, not a fuck. Okay. So often you've got to give that space to realize is the big thing is that what you want in those years is that pause from being on duty. Okay. Team, the questions that one of the big things that I think is, if anybody wants to ask a question, okay? Or let me just before. Sorry, yeah. last thing.
And there was somebody, iPhone 13. Can you please give a little bit more info? Oh, it just disappeared. About 60 plus. I'm going to turn 61 in June.
Okay, and who is that? If I'm an iPhone 13, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to know, if anything, we might run 10
Tina.
minutes over, but I think it's quite important to know this, okay?
Tina.
I'm going to bring in here what I spoke about earlier in 60. I did an ayahuasca journey a couple of months ago, probably about a year ago, so it feels like a couple of months ago. And I had a big, like anybody, I can't describe it, but a vision. What source, I like to call God source, what source showed me, and I'm going to jump back here and then leap it through back to your 60. Every human being, it is such a privilege and a gift to be on planet Earth, okay? And I'm deviating here at the moment, okay? Planet Earth is going through something spectacular, beautiful, scary, okay? And the next week or 10 days is really big in planet Earth, and it's in juncture, and it's change, and it's shift, okay? But God, for us to be on planet Earth, Source wanted us to serve planet Earth in whatever way we could for 60 years. And when we turn 60, whether we're masculine or feminine or they or pronouns or whatever, we are literally free from a service to planet Earth. So Source showed me in this meditation, he's like, Sammi, it's not retirement. It's retirement from a life of service to Earth. And he says, what I saw it as, and the best layman's way I can put it is, you're born, you go to a prison, and you're going to be in prison for 60 odd years. Okay. God willing, you're healthy and fresh. And, you know, some people are not lucky enough to get there. Some people have different life paths, but God willing, you are here for a good 60. Okay. What he showed me is you're not getting out of the system. You are stuck in this prison where you have to serve and give back till you're 60. So you might as well, and that was that deep fear of me around 42 to about 42 briefly, but 45 is, part of me wanted to just play it safe, go back to sleep. I didn't want to start an NPC. I didn't want the pain, and I didn't want the torture of actually starting something again. If I'm 45, I'm nearly 60, I'm nearly, oh God, I can really retire. Okay. What he showed me is, no, you're still in prison. You might as well use the next 15, 16 years of your life to what do you want to live as 60? Okay. Because at 60, astrologically, two things happen. The prison gates open and say, go live the life you want to live. And for a crone, okay, and this is where it gets so exciting. The crone from 60 on is the most powerful part of herself, okay, if she can give herself the space to explore her madness, her shadow, her primal, her craziness in these years. The crone never leaves you, and women at their 60s are actually supposed to create empires, but empires are themselves. And then I look at South Africans, Sally Williams, Ina Palmer, okay, the woman who ran Shazette, you know, these are women in their late 50s, early 60s, okay, and team from me is, nothing happens, I don't know, nothing happens in nature singly, or thing is anything from 55, you're ready to go. So from 60 and 61, and I'm excited about that age. Not that I wish my age away. I'm excited about what I'm going to do with what I'm learning in my 40s at 60. But at 60, nothing can stop you if you're in your crone. And there's a deep sense of, I've earned my stripes. I'm the owl, and now the world responds to me. So the 60s is probably the most exciting, but also the most scary, because the menopause, or the final phase of your life, is you do not need the masculine, and it's not the physical masculine. Okay, please, we're not knocking males, we're not knocking park. You don't need the system. You know your self-worth. You've worn your scars. You've got your saggy boobs, but you've got your saggy boobs because you gave life. Okay. So the 60s is probably the most exciting time for a woman, but we've been so scared of it because we're scared we go crazy. Because sometimes at 60, you come back and you're like, I want to create a nougat company. I want to create a chicken fucking stock company, okay? And to me, the best years of our lives, astrologically, if we're healthy and we look after ourselves and we feed the crone, 60 to 80, okay? God willing, healthy, all of that, the planet and all of that. And the crone, nothing can hold her back there, because at 60, 61, you owe something nothing, okay? And team, one of the questions, just to maybe plant it, is I wish I'd known this as a young girl, that when I wanted to break free much earlier, I didn't know I was breaking free. And I do, thank God, I've always followed a deep gut calling. This is the right path for me. But I wish when I was younger, in my 15s, my teens, okay, when the crone comes in, she comes in at 15 very strongly. I wish when I was in my late teens, up until maybe, because the minute the crone hits at 31, there is an energy of growing up and a painful transformation, okay? Girls, we've all had periods, okay? No disrespect here, we're all girls, and if there's masculine here or anything, I'm really sorry again. But periods are painful, okay? And if you're given birth, whether it's Caesar or through your vagina, that is literally the size of a pea and you push out a watermelon, okay? Fuck me, respect, okay? Is the crone naturally takes on more. I wish I had been more carefree. I wish I'd known that age was going to catch me and wisdom was going to come, and that it's okay to be messy, and it's okay to fuck up, and it's okay to take okay in these big years to turn my world upside down, okay? And we should really, up until 31, we should be as crazy as possible. We should be as wild as possible, as free as possible, because the minute the crone engages, we have power, we have painful transformation, okay? So what I wish I'd known much earlier is be wild and free for as long as possible. But also know is the big thing here, what I'm grateful with, and what me and Michael have a lot of conversations on our walks. There's a part of me that's really cross that there's a natural emergence of the crone. Girls, you can't deny her. She's not something that you can push away. She is a live, living force, okay? I wish I had done maybe a bit more work at those 31s, 36s, that my 42 and 45 weren't as painful, okay? But what I realized, that if you don't do the work, the crone is reckless and brutal, and the journey is much more painful. So the more you give into the shadow aspect and a little bit of the wildness of the crone, the mad witch, the alchemist, the less painful the peeling back of the layers are. So what I wish I told myself is keep on growing, dig deep. And youth, you know that saying, youth is wasted on the young? Oh, fuck me, yes, okay? I wish at 31 I would have worn the bikini. I wish at 22 I'd worn the bikini. I can now wear it because I've lost so much weight, but I don't want to wear a bikini at nearly 50 because it's not where I need to be anymore, okay? Probably me, I'll be naked. I'll probably just skinny dip, okay? But I wish I told my, you know, that younger thing is, I wish I told my work, don't be scared of the work. Don't be scared of the craziness. Don't be scared of the pain. Don't be scared of the panic attacks. Don't be scared of the feralness of youth, because she's beautiful and she's wild and she's free. And Mother Earth will contain you from 31 to about 42 naturally, where you will have to make painful sacrifices as a woman for the greater good of Mother Earth. But so be messy, be crazy. And in those big years, be messy and crazy. Don't hurt anybody else. Don't become predatory. Don't confuse survival base chakra impulses, feral, sex, predatory, greed, lust, stuff, okay? Pull her up between your sacral and your belly button in between, and find a creative life source, okay? And nurture her and allow your world to spin on its, allow yourself to make crazy choices in those years to be free, so that when she really hits at 55, you don't have to fill 7 phases of her life in one. Okay, and then the last one that goes to this, the masculine energy. Anybody with a partner, anybody married, listen, homosexual gay couples, it is a little bit different, okay? It is a little bit more challenging because the female has the female bond. She has her hormones at the same time, okay? So I didn't, you know, there's break-offs to this, but this is just, I just did a black and white A to Z, okay? What you have to remember, if you have males in your life, and if you are in these periods 31, 36, 42, blah, 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 you're not going to like the male. Okay, they're going to repulse you. You're going to fight them. You're going to, you want to assert your power because your base chakra is still alive because she comes in there. Okay, but please give the masculine a lot of space here if you are in those ages and they are in these time frames, because the masculine crone energy is the exact opposite. They want nurturing. They want to stay at home. How many women do you know that get to the stage where they are sort of retiring? They want to go home and be free, and their husbands are also retiring and they want to sit at home and have tea. Oh, are you kidding? Okay. I'm not saying that divorce doesn't happen and separation doesn't happen, but you've got to give your partnership a lot more leeway in these years, because the masculine wants the exact opposite. So Lady Nada and Haniel once said to me is, the best thing a woman can do is look at having, she and remember the crone is cheeky, she's playful, she's feral, she's wild. She's like, women should actually have significant age different partners, okay, either younger or older, to help balance it out, especially that one, the most difficult, I think, is that 45 to 48 period, because it's a natural break free. Women often have children still there, and masculine wants to come home, wants to suddenly start his own career, suddenly retire, wants to think about what he wants to do, and the woman's like, oh, you crazy, I want to go out and paint and you need to pay for this shit. Okay, so it's a very interesting how the male estrogen drops. Okay, where suddenly estrogen, believe it or not, also drops with him, and suddenly the things he cares about, providing, wanting to raise a family, suddenly no, he doesn't want that. He wants to come home and start a veggie garden. Okay, so that is. But any questions? The big keys here is really stick to the words menopause and menopause, but the most primary in those ages, 31, 36, 42, is menopause, okay? The female must take time to give herself pause. Okay, and being vulnerable to mad impulses. Okay, so this and that basically is it. It is something that's still unfolding with me, okay? And the baseline I can basically, the crone to me, enables deep self-respect. But in that, you will often find yourself, your whole world shifting, because suddenly the things you wanted, cared for, thought you were going to have are not there. And deep down, you're okay with them and you don't understand why you're okay with them, because suddenly you realize it's me. I have me. Okay. And team, I don't know, just two things that I want to go back to that Michael is bringing through. I'm just going to put it down because I'm still developing this. Okay, you really are my guinea pig group. I've been working on this for a long time, navigating, kicking it out, and please believe there's 7 or 8 layers to it. But she is, I was so excited, and especially probably in the last year, I've really made peace with her. She's batshit crazy, she's wild, and she can be full of shit. Okay, but what I've realized is she's far braver than me, and I can hide behind her in these years. And what happens is the crone will bark once or twice, okay, and then people just back off a bit because they're like, I won't mess with it, okay. But the big one for me is I allowed myself to be vulnerable to my own madness, to my own feelings of what I really felt. And women, I hate to say women more, and I don't want to make it, women are so conditioned, so much more than masculine, to suppress that wildness, because if you go wild, you're mad. Okay. So listen, I just want to say really thank you for listening to me, and just sharing a very personal, very scary journey, because I really was the most excited person to ever hear the word perimenopause in my life. I remember leaving Vincent Pallotti like, thank God, because now I have a real reason to people to tell me to fuck off why I don't want children, okay? Or I've reached that phase where I can, and then suddenly things start to happen. I was like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I'm absolutely going crazy, because everything in my world suddenly flipped. Okay. So any questions? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Samantha, Sammy. Anybody? I'm sure, like I can see the ladies in the house, and does anyone? I'm opening it up for questions. Is there anybody that wants to start it off? Corinna, very insightful, Sam. Everything in its own timing, I think she's saying. Yes, everything timelines. It all makes so much sense. It does, absolutely. Daphne, yes.
Also, I'm going to come back with something too at the end. Okay, yeah?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Daphne. It's only lately that I've realized how weird I seem to be. I've enjoyed.
Daphne, before you go another step, how old are you? Because when you start realizing and going to those anchor points of those age, you'll start to chuckle because you'll be in a big crone phase. And astrologically, the crone phase will last. She starts about 6 months before those big years, but she anchors about 3 months and then she stays. So you really get an extra bit of bonus 3 months. Okay. So how old are you?
79. I'll be 80 in September.
Okay, and 80, I still have to track 80, okay, so I'll come back to you, but it's just no stopping.
Yeah, well, I laugh a lot. I don't just chuckle. I
Good.
laugh anyway, and I think I don't even see the crone as separate from me, or the witch, or the monster, or the everything. I've managed to integrate about 17 different people that I have to hide away sometimes when appropriate because I was very well brought up.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I dropped that.
Conditioned.
What do you say?
Conditioned.
Yeah, well, I'm not so good with time nor language. It comes from my gut.
Yeah.
And when my mom had dementia, and I have the sense that I won't get that because that's in the brain. So I've been using my body for thinking and being and enjoying life. And
Yeah.
my mother, she lived till 100. She was
Wow.
able to do things that she'd always done for a while she got into dementia, because she could play the piano, she could page through books, she could knit, and then that fell away. But she was very physical with touching and gardening and everything like that. But Samantha, I think it's been really very, very helpful for me. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, blessings, is really blessings. And, one of the big things here is each single time she comes, she leaves a little piece of her, okay? So even if you don't acknowledge her at 31, she leaves a little piece, okay? And a little piece, and then she leaves a little piece. And so what happens is as we approach that 60 benchmark of the crone really anchoring, okay, the key here is integrate her more and more and more.
Yeah.
So it's not such a blazing thing at 60 where she just says, fuck you, okay? And that's what it is she, by the time you're 60, going into 65, she should be integrated. If she's integrated, she's healthy, okay? Team, going back a little bit, I just made a note here. The reason why I feel this wisdom has been hidden from us, okay, is because the patriarchal system, the masculine system, okay, and the last one to think about, and I just want to bring in again Haniel, because she says I haven't finished it. I want you all to think about this, and it blew my mind, okay? We are connected, even if you are a male here. Just clear the brain here. It's almost like take sorbet and clear the brain. When your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, and that woman, they don't produce more ovaries or eggs. They are born with the eggs that they will need through their lives, okay? When your grandmother was pregnant with your mom, there was an ovary in your mom's ovary. Sorry, there was a little egg in your mom's ovary that was you. Okay, think about that. It's big. We are always genetically connected to the crone, our automatic wise grandmother, soul wise, okay? And that's a genetic brain fuck, okay? If you think about it. So we can't really disconnect. Even the masculine can never really disconnect because from the crone. And the crone, any woman over that grandmother energy is naturally the crone, okay? So the crone is always in us, okay? And just for women, also women who choose to have children or whatever, when you fall pregnant, whether you carry a boy or girl child, you're actually carrying your grandchildren. Okay. And then that other big one is there's a reason. Source, Mother Earth, okay, Menses Haniel, that source chose the feminine spirit to birth spirit, okay, because the moon is so powerful. And when you realize that what really fucked me, and I can say it, okay, is what really sad and fucked me off is the patriarch. I do believe in the suppression of this, is because the older and wiser as woman goes through these different phases, and she hits her mid-40s to mid-48, where she can't, generally, and it's a tough one sometimes, okay, and the thing is, by 50, 55, a woman is not having children. Her roles as a female has changed. If 55 to 60, her parents are either very old, her children are raised, her grandchildren, totally different role. So the woman enters, and she enters as early as 45, when estrogen starts to drop and the natural quality of eggs go down, and all that stuff happens. Is a woman she moves into a most powerful archetype phase of her life, where she doesn't need the masculine, she wants the masculine, and she wants partnership. So if they belittle it into madness, well, then we don't acknowledge it, okay? And it really is sad, because I think if women were allowed to rise into their power and be Khaleesi, mother of dragons, the world would be a very different place. And it's time for us to rise into the crone, be wise. Do not confuse it with predatory baseline energy. That's the masculine. We've got enough masculine energy happening on this planet Earth. We need to tell stories. We need to hug. We need to nurture, but also nurture the self. The only way we're going to do this is nurture the self, put respect, boundaries down to say this is not okay. Okay, so yeah, sorry if I waffle there, but that is, and what one of the messages I got in my meditation this afternoon, put it out there to the world. We as women need to learn to nurture the world as it is, not the world we want to, because if we start nurturing and seeing it as in loving it as it is, okay, because that is the great thing of the Haniel. She can see the darkness, she can see the madness, she can see the hag, but she chooses to be the crone, okay? So we all go into life thinking about I'm going to go in there with my crone energy. I'm wise, and I am part of Earth, and I am going to love, because that's the moon just shines light onto planet Earth.
So I'm gonna add a little bit here, and I
That's perfect.
timeline that you've given us, and you had mentioned earlier on, had you known this when you were younger, how useful it would have been. And as you relaying the stories and giving us the timeline, I'm looking at these ages and how completely relevant all these times there were such pivotal times in my life. With the 42 year roundabout there, from 42 to the 45 and 48, I can now understand the Haniel energy so much, because at 44, I got diagnosed with cancer, but it was such a, for me, I didn't have the languaging, but I knew that. I thought to myself, the first thing I thought is, wow, I've got my work cut out for me. So it was, I got it immediately. It was like she stepped in. She needed to arrive at that age, and it was the best thing for me. I mean, I know it's obviously controversial and it's obviously personal, but because I went through the experience, I'm completely entitled to say it was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah,
because it did introduce me to my crone, and to the crone energy. And
Yeah.
I really did not have the voice that I wanted to have prior to getting it. So I needed to have that experience. I needed that age for it to happen. It just made so much sense.
What I find with my own crone, okay, is she, and Daphne, I think you said it earlier, and I put it down here in my little mind map, is she's not, and I think that was the interesting thing for me, is like working a lot with Carolyn, Miss Archetypes, Angels, and all this. This was a very separate energy coming through me that was very real and very separate to me, but it was in me and it was different to me. And it was a force that I actually was scared of her, because I was like, fuck, where did you know, to me is I chronic people pleaser, okay, healer, anybody in healing is fuck, we get it. And suddenly I was actually like, the things I was hearing back from myself and saying, I was like, what the fuck, okay? And it's interesting is, and drawing it up is, I've never met a being like this that would take an archetype. If you don't want to feed me, I will give you something that you have to feed me. You have to self-care. Getting a big project like cancer, depression, UTIs, you know, the thing that I'm still studying a lot, still looking at it, but and I'm not quite ready to put my research out there, is UTIs with women late 40s, early 50s, okay? Fucking fascinate me, is why are women getting UTIs late 50s and 60s? What are they so angry with in their vages that haven't been seen? Okay, and it's all this thing is that she wants to be fed, she wants to be seen. So that's what scared me a bit with the crone. She's not going to just say, okay, shame you didn't feed me. And she normally bites back with one of the big ones. And she normally bites back with some form of cancer or depression.
But, you know, I could feel it as a very empowering project. I like that you said, you know, like it was a very empowering project. I got that straight away. And you know, my beautiful contrast was prior to that working in the film industry for, you know, 90 hours a day, because I was doing two jobs at the same time. Then I had like this, I went through chemo going, I'm on a bit of a sabbatical. I was forced to self-care and do self-nurturing and understand what that meant.
Yeah, she's not an angel. You know, Haniel and Michael, they you know, the angels will do anything in their power to try and prevent suffering. The crone is actually wired to, if you don't want to listen, well, then you're going to fucking suffer, okay? And why do we have more depression in older women? Why do we have more suicides there? Why do we have more aggressive cancers, okay? Why do women suffer a lot more in the old age from health that they shouldn't suffer from? Is because the crone says, respect me. And the deepest thing in my whole journey here is what the crone has taught me to do. I'm still learning. Please believe me, I'm probably 10 out of 100 here, okay? And I've only known her for the last, really integrated last 2 or 3 years, is self-care. Self-care. And self-care, I've had to also look at the last couple of years what self-care looked like. Self-care is not a pedicure. Self-care is saying, I don't want to wake up maybe with an alarm clock because I've earned the right at maybe 45, 48 years old to sleep. And, you know, when I took that pressure off, I'm awake much earlier. But self-care is what the crone demands. And if we don't self-care, she will force us to self-care. And she will either make us go lunar, whoops, or she'll give us cancers. And girls, I'm not trying to be prophet. It's real. She demands it. And if we could see it then as in these periods building up to 45 to 48, but then from 55, if you don't do it, she'll nail you, okay? And the way the crone was nailing me was panic attacks on my floor. And it wasn't a nice feeling, okay? You know, I won't mention names, but I actually had a huge panic attack in front of a client. And I thought, if this client wakes up and sees me lying on the floor having a panic attack, my business is gone. You know, so she started to teach me, because I wouldn't listen, I wouldn't slow down. Even sickness wouldn't slow me down. So she started forcing me to literally lie down and have panic attacks where I thought I was dying. And then she started talking to me on the bathroom floor, and she was like, get up, get up, get up. And I was like, but, and it was, the get up was a selfish get up and do things for you. And I didn't understand it because I'm not wired that way. And the selfish came, it started out as selfishness, but it actually became self-respect at the end of the journey. And it's magical to see. And the crone, please believe me, she's like the different phase of the moon. There's even in the last 2 or 3 weeks, the last 7 weeks, the crone's been nailing me again in the shadow, but she's so wise and so brave. And if you trust her a bit, she will create a very strong barrier around you going into your 60s that nothing can really hurt you. Okay. But as I said, I can talk to you about this because it is, you know, and this the first one, and I'll shut up with this one, is where we start to really go wrong is we go back right to mythology, Lilith and Eve. You know, Lilith was Adam's first wife. She was the crone. She said, I demand to be equalized. I demand to be a partner. They vilified her and suddenly created Eve, the people pleaser.
Interesting.
You know, so the crone energy has been so hidden because I do truly believe is, and I don't, this is I'm not a raving feminist or anything like that, okay, but we have power, we're having vaginas, okay, and whether you choose to use it to give birth or not is just purely the source that God chose women to birth life on planet Earth, okay, across the board, whether they clone us or not, and all of that is. Women need to come back, and it's not my vag is bigger than yours or anything like that. Women have a supreme power, and we need to come back into our power. And our power is not base, it's sacral, it's nurturing and passion. So the best way you can honor your crone is to follow your own self-respect and follow your own madness, no matter where it leads you, because I promise you it will pay off.
You know,
and the crone energy is very much that song. I don't know if you're keen, but I don't know if you all want to listen. I wanted to start the program with the song Stay. It's an old 80s song. Quickly, but I thought it was a bit maybe over the top, and I didn't want to scare you all. And my best friend would turn around and tell me a bit dramatic, okay? But Shakespeare's sister, the song Stay is so archetypal for the crane. In those big years, you can stay in your world or you can go into the madness. But if you stay, you're going to fucking be nailed later. So you might as well go through the dark, go into your craziness, get to your, because I can't wait for my mid-55s, okay? And the world that I want to live in mid-55 is a beautiful world where it's a little Hobbitville, okay? So I'm using, and this is also part of my crone phase, is 5 years ago, you would have never got me on YouTube because I was insecure, scared, thinking, is the crone is, okay, I have, there's a wisdom here. Let's share the wisdom. Let's tell our stories so that we can create a world that we are safe to carry on life force. And remember also here, there always has been, and I will shut up after this, okay? Michael's just told me to shut up. From planet Earth, from Lilith and Eve, okay? There's something on planet Earth that wants to suppress the crone energy, the wisdom of the female. And the wisdom of the female is not that we don't need the masculine, is we're strong enough to birth. So you know what? Become outstanding, play with us or play against us. And it's not feminine, masculine, it's wisdom. And the world need now. And ladies, really as an astrologer, the next 4 or 5 days, hold on, because Uranus starts to interact later tomorrow. Uranus will start to interact, and Uranus is the planet that lets challenge everything else, and it is challenging Pluto, Mars, Sun, big stuff. Okay, so in the next, go out, tell your stories about your vulnerability, tell your stories about when you kissed the boy and you did something mad. Tell your young girls about the wild stories, okay? Another beautiful movie to watch is The Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood. Amazing, amazing, amazing movie of the crone, okay? It's a must. It's it is probably to me what I think my best movie. It is such a beautiful journey of the different archetypes of the crone, the different ages.
Beautiful. Sammi,
Okay.
I'm
gonna shut up now. Thank you.
I wanted to ask a question, and then I know Ellen wrote a very good question that you can look over in the chat.
Okay. I'll go
Okay.
look, but yes,
I'll be quick.
No,
I just don't know. I've forgotten how to use the chat, so that's why I can't write.
No,
So
no,
I-
no,
but I
don't
can,
worry, me too.
but
I'll-
I can still talk. So it's taken me the whole show to realize what was confusing me, and that was that I'm very close to my crone and my witch and all those people. So and I feed myself a lot, physically, food, my work I love. So I nourish myself. I lead quite a sort of a quiet life inside myself. And I found ways not to get involved with the things that could hurt me. So I thought that what you said just now, the secrets, what we can do with the world, knows how to, is with all the conflict that's going on. I just mean this love that's here with you today, with us. If we can just make peace everywhere, it just feels like the potential is here, because I love men, I love women, I love everybody. I don't have a problem with that, and we can just find a way to dilute all that nonsense that's going on. So I would like that to be your next job.
No, that's perfect. And it really was. I really, just before the session, I got a meme or some SMS that said, we need to learn to, as women, we need to learn to love the world as it is. And I'm the first one.
That's
I
the one. Thank you. Thank
But
you. Thank you very much.
ladies, it's again, not to be chauvinistic or against one, but I think we need to rise. Women need to rise, and it's not a tit for tat.
Yeah.
My penis or whatever is bigger and all that. We are Stadonians of the earth. It's called Mother Earth, not called Father fucking Earth. Okay, we're Mother Earth, and we need to rise, and we need to love the world as it is. And because all of us, I think, on some role are here on nurturers, mothers, mommies, aunts, whether you're a mom, cat mom, dog mom, whatever. Okay, we know we will we forgive so much, and we love so much. I love, as a woman, I think we do, is we see it a lot more compassionate if we can, and if we can just come back, okay, as women, and start loving ourselves, loving our craziness, loving that we are controlled by a planet. Women are controlled by a planet that every 3 days has a fucking change of her mood, okay? It's not even us changing our mood. The fucking moon changes her mood, okay? And if we start loving and sitting with the madness, this world will change. And just that love is love the world you're in, and sit with the vulnerability. We'll shift this very quickly.
I love that, Sammi. I just find that so
Thanks.
empowering. I'm going to just keep the trail going with the questions. I see Les wants to ask a question.
I just want to, Ellen, I'm going to go back with your UTI.
Yes.
This is a very interesting one, and it's also one we could sit with. Is yes, this is what the umbrella was. It is a common, and I put common, okay, side effect of perimenopause and menopause, but it's not based in anything hugely huge here. It is a reaction from me, from a spiritual point of view, is your vag is angry with you. That part of you, as I'm grateful enough to have had 2 in my life, and fuck, I never wish it on anybody, because it's hideous, okay? It is hideous. You're like pissing through razor blades, okay? But it is, and that's where I got so angry with it. It is yes, it is hormonal. It is a side effect, but the intensity of it and it's not shouldn't be there. Because UTI is your hormonal, if it's healthy and balanced, your hormonal system is not to attack your system, not to attack that part, is actually to heal. So that we do have a hormonal balance, and a thing is there's an energetic imbalance there, and it comes from anger, being pissed off. Okay, it's one of the and also it was one of the big things that people often say night sweats, menopausal night sweats are normal. It's not actually. It is menopausal night sweats is the stuff the steam we hold on to, what have we not been able to process? So the more you have a net of steam, you'll find that Nigel, that a woman who often can't let go of their emotions, can't steam, they have hideous night sweats, okay? More to the woman who acts like a banshee in Pick and Pay, they seem to have less. So it is, and that was one of the umbrellas, it's not under there, but there's a lot more to it. Okay, Les, I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I was thinking of something else. You know, I think witches, you were talking about witches. Witches got a bad rap. And this is just my take. I'm putting it out there, and I haven't read about this as such, but witches, the witch held the power because they had the knowledge, they had the wisdom of the earth and the knowledge of the medicines and the, you know, all the intricate power that could heal and fix and do. And so the masculine energy was threatened by that because obviously the patriarch wanted to rule and take over. So witches were burned at the stake. And I think that's where we today get that whole thing of, oh, a witch is a negative thing. No, a witch is not a negative thing because the witches hold that feminine, you know, we all have the masculine and feminine within us, but the witches held the power to heal and to fix the energy. And it was too threatening for the masculine. They couldn't compete. So they burnt and buried them and thought they would get away with that. And now it's time for the matriarch, the true feminine wisdom and power to rise up again, to rebalance with the dance with the masculine and feminine, because we don't need to be in control. There's a different energy that's got that held in the masculine and feminine, and the dance together is where the wisdom is. So not to be threatened by either, but just to say, okay, it's time for the matriarchal energy now, and we are the wisdom keepers of that energy, and we're bringing it back in through.
Totally. And, you know, the big thing is here, when I sort of, I don't know if you see my little notes, okay, because this is just me, is, you know, I start with the crone and then I cut her in half because the crone has the hag and the crone, and underneath the word I've linked it with is the word witch. And this is where it's interesting if you really go back to it. From the moment we have landed on this planet, the crone has been hidden. Lilith was hidden. Adam's first wife. I think it's pretty much mostly accepted now that Adam, sorry about the burping, I channel when I burp, that Adam had a wife called Lilith. And, you know, that's where the first, you know, God sent 700 angels down to Sapphiros to kill her and her family kind of thing. So right from the moment we crawled out of maybe wherever you want to think we crawled out of is the crone has been hidden, okay? Because I think it is so deeply scary is how powerful we are actually in our force, okay? And I think Betty David said it, she's my hero, by the way, okay? I think Betty David said it well, I love that saying when she says, please, can you stop saying growing a pair of balls? Can you please say grow a vagina? Because growing a pair of balls means nothing. You get a little kick and you're fucking down on the knees. You vaginas can birth, you know, watermelons. So it is right, Salem witches and that, right? But it goes back to biblical. You know, if you open the first page of your Bible, you have Eve being kicked out of the garden, okay, which goes right back to the patriarch. There's the female, is the wise woman. Eve goes to and I really don't want to make it about this, but Eve goes to the tree of knowledge and drinks from knowledge, okay, and she gets kicked out from that, okay. There's the crone energy coming straight through. The woman has always sought knowledge. She will always be. Women leave the home a lot earlier. Women are the conduits between spirit and God. So to me, I got very angry about it, and I had to work through my anger. And I realized now I was working through my anger at 36. Okay, I was not a nice woman at 36. I was predatory. I was not nice. Okay, because I didn't understand the wounding, and I took it to my base. So, and you know, I also own it there is if we don't go into the lunacy and the shadow goddess, you can't come out on the other side. And it would be on any reference, the Phoenix, Isis, Osiris, you know, it's always there in history. But when I started to realize this powerful woman that was in me and was always with me, okay, and that I was told to hide her because she's feral and not right, we've been told that from the first story we ever told of is Eve's a naughty girl. And then so we are so conditioned into this to suppress the wild female, okay? And how, you know, even if you look at the Desperate Housewives, how many temptations of the bloody Eve apple is there, okay? You can't be tempted into your Eve. You can't be tempted into your madness. You can't push the boundaries. If you push the boundaries, you're going to get kicked out of the system. Okay, so women it's interesting when I work with masculine around the crone energy, they have a totally different flip thing. They don't have this, where women can't often break free until they mid-50s, but then most of them are half mad. Okay.
And Mary Magdalene as well. You know how Mary Magdalene's made out to be that sort of like whole kind of person. And actually she was carrying the wisdom, and her and Jeshua worked together with that.
If I'm invited back, I can do a very controversial talk. Is, you know, Mary Magdalene to me, and channeling Jesus for years, is Jesus did not die on that cross. Jesus carried on living for many years after that. But there's the crone, who vilified the chosen woman. It's there in our faces, okay? Yeah. You know, even if you take the archetype which psychology is based on is Alice in Wonderland, okay, it's the crazy girl that falls down a rabbit hole that meets all these creatures. It wasn't crazy man. And, you know, I always turn around, and we do it. We see it in society all the time. Oh, she's on her period, or she's a bit mad, or she's on her period, all that. Okay, yeah, I am. And what the fuck? So it really is. That's what's the thing is. If we could just learn to, the world would be such a different place, because a woman she has a totally different connection to Mother Earth. If she has birthed children, she will have a totally different connection. Or any woman, even if you didn't birth children, or that, you have a connection to life. And I find it's interesting again. When a woman chooses to take life, she's a lot crueler, which fascinates me. Working in front, and I'm going to really shut it up now because I know we're going over, and my tummy's rumbling. But in frontline rescue, it's interesting. I've seen cruelty and I've seen evil, and the cruelty portrayed by women is far harsher. There's a lot more darkness in women when the crone breaks. She breaks, and it's not pretty. Okay, there's no coming back from it. And that's what scared me is, okay, I'm going to start feeding this wild woman. I'm going to start saying no more. I'm going to start saying, no, I want to stay in my garden a little bit more and be selfish, because that's it. And it's only for periods, because when she really comes into her power at 60, she creates an empire, because she's given to herself. Yeah. But now I'll shut up, because I'll now start losing my track.
Just quickly, do you remember that story? I think it was the New Zealand woman who took a knife and cut off her partner's dick.
Yes, I remember that.
There were mitigating circumstances. She had her period, and they let her off or something. I just remember hearing that story and thinking, oh my God, I can so imagine that.
Yeah,
not that I have a man, but you know, I could imagine. Yeah.
And if you look around you, any woman post 42, maybe 45, it is a bit difficult when you're younger, and you're not supposed to maybe see all the nasties in your 30s. But if I look around, I see women in their 60s and their late 50s, and like going mad, doing crazy things. And I can see it's the crone that just needs to, but then I also allow the madness to come through, because the big thing is, the quicker you let the madness come through, the quicker you have your tattoo, the quicker you do that course, the quicker you let your world spin upside down, the quicker the world spins back up.
Can I share a story?
Sure.
So there's so many things I want to weave in here. So when I went into menopause, so firstly I want to say that when I started menopause, wished that it was a conversation that women had more. There was very little information from, be it, well, I was one of my first friends that had it, but there was very little information from my mom. Certainly didn't speak about it. My sister's older. There wasn't a conversation. And so it was something I needed to navigate. And I've seen with a lot of my friends and colleagues that the menopause phase is still new. It's not spoken about enough. And really what we're speaking about is getting to know our crone, and meeting Hannah. What's her name? Hannah?
Haniel.
Haniel. And I like I said, I didn't know the name, but I could feel this presence, which was clearly her during the time that I was in, pretty much started it during my treatment years. And I remember when I finished chemo being so depressed the last day I finished. And the reason was I was stuck in menopause and thought, well, I don't know when this is going to end. And I felt that deep depression sit in. I didn't know how to navigate the body changes. And that was in about it was about March of the year, April. In December, you talk about tattoos. In December,
Yes.
months later, I decide I'm going to have a tattoo. I stopped my period in 2016. I finished chemo in 2017. In March. In December, on the 5th, I have a tattoo. And the tattoo is this. I'm just going to show it to
Have a look.
So it's my dragonfly, which is sort of dragon energy as well, like transformation. There
Awesome.
there was a lot of like, it was the chemo arm. Then what I did, and I put a dot over here, and that dot, there is red in it. That's where the needle went in, but I wanted to re-inject prana and life force.
Okay.
And it was the only part of the tattoo that was bloody painful. I had it in the morning, and that evening I had my period for the very first time. A proper period, 5 days. And I remember thinking, wow, this is telling me the elixir cup of life is still within me. Because when I finished the chemo in the March of that year, I thought, I'm on the other side of the fountain of youth. Like, I was so depressed about it. And this months later, and literally on that day, and the power of this intention, and I never had a period after that, but it didn't matter. I knew that I had life within me, and it actually, that was, you know, I'd met Hannel, but now I felt the energy of, I was really excited that I could do something with it. So I wanted to, so it's definitely been the most exciting and fulfilling time since then.
Yeah, I think it is she's scary excitement. I actually think working with Crone is a bit like a roller coaster. Is if you just strap in and go with her, she'll be absolutely, fight it, she's going to take you out.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting, like what you said, something is what freaked me out more. It was a real living life force. It was a viable life force. It wasn't me. It wasn't an angel. It wasn't something, it was something real coming through me that suddenly started being me, saying things that I wish I'd said, but didn't have the strength to say. So she's an amazing character. And the minute you make friends with her, she's like literally riding on the broom. So ride the broom, but it's a bit like a roller coaster. And remember, being controlled by the moon, it can be very emotional, very painful, big transitions happening.
But I think what you said is really important, to work with her, because
don't fight her.
With her, I feel very empowered. I find my voice. I'm sitting here in front of all of you, having created this platform that I would never have in 1,000 years. Like, to this extent. So.
And most times when you're working with a crone, to the outside world is going to look a bit crazy, but trust it. Trust your gut. Moon instinct. Trust your instinct. It will guide you right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Sammi, thank you so much for the most insightful, interesting, inspiring evening. I know that everybody has just loved it. Thank you for sharing your story, your vulnerability.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome onto my in my kitchen anytime. So I'd love us to do another session a few months down. Thank you everybody for joining. And please, if you aren't connected to Conversations in the Kitchen, I will write my phone number in the chat. And next month, I'm going to be sharing my story of life and celebrating life after cancer. So come and have a listen
Awesome.
in May. So
Thank you for having me, and thanks for all listening.
thank you, Sammi. Lots of love. Hey.
Bye.